Hey there, my name is Deanna Britt from Law Clerk on Demand, and welcome to my channel. I am so excited to have my special guest today, Nasar El Arabi, master wholesaler, investor, developer from Charlotte, North Carolina. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. First things first, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. All right. Well, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about you and your background and how you got started in real estate?
All right, so my name is Nasar El Arabi, and I've been involved in real estate for 12 years. Okay, bought my first house in 2007 while I was an undergrad, and I actually finished up at King University in New Jersey. Shout out to Elizabeth, New Jersey. And I did my first flip in a city called East Orange, New Jersey. So me and my friend, we were inspired by the show Flip That House. And we figured from watching the show, all we have to do is, yell at buy an ugly house, yell at some contractors, and make a bunch of money. But unfortunately, we found out the hard way that's not how reality works. So we end up losing about $7,000 a piece on that particular property. And from there, I had my bachelor's from college, so I moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina in pursuit of becoming a real estate investor. And from there, I worked in banking for 4 years, and I was finally fired from my last job. My last job, I was making about 38 grand a year. So got fired from that, and fast forward, I run a 7-figure real estate business. So it's been very rewarding, and the journey has definitely been worth it. And yeah, that's basically how I got started and where I'm at now.
All right. So what piques your interest in real estate initially? Like before the flip this house, did you see it in your childhood at all?
Okay, so this is what happened. I was 19 years old, and I overheard my father talking to his friend.
Okay.
And my father was talking to his friend about the guy who flipped the house next door.
Okay.
And he was telling his friend how the guy bought the house for $150,000, put $20,000 into it, and sold it for $270,000. So here it is. I'm a 19-year-old kid. I'm not even worried about closing costs, realtor commissions, interest payments. I don't care about none of that. I just calculated, wow, this guy just made 100 grand on one house.
Right.
So I was just like, I want to do real estate. And what happened from there was, me being a 19-year-old kid, I went to ask someone about real estate that knew nothing about real estate, which was my father. So my father was like, well, you got to get your credit fixed because you need good credit to buy a house. And I was like, he said, so go talk to my friend. He fixed his credit. So I went to his friend, and it's not that my credit needed to be repaired. I didn't have any credit.
Right.
I was 19.
Right.
And so his friend basically just walked me through the process of applying for credit cards at department stores and getting your essentials like your deodorant and lotion, Vaseline, whatever you wear, the stuff that you need,
Right.
and pay it off. And then, from there, I did have 700 plus credit throughout my whole 20s. However, it was a time in history which led to the biggest recession since the Great Depression, whereas you can literally, it sounds crazy saying it now, but I was 24 and I bought my first house. I didn't have a job, but they did this thing called no-doc loans. And with this no-document loan, it didn't verify your income or anything.
Oh, my goodness.
And they just give you a loan for the house, and that's what we did. And I was able to buy a house I really couldn't afford, but we was able to, get through the process, thankfully.
Okay.
But that's how I got started, man, hearing that. And then, in the midst of that, I was already, when I heard the guy made 100 grand, I was sold. But the icing on the cake was, I seen him pull up to the house next door to me, and whatever year it was, he had the Range Rover of that year, and like the model girl hopping out the side of the side of the truck.
So that sold you.
Yeah, so it was like, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, yeah, I'm sold. I got to do this, and reality, that first flip, if I would have made some money, I already had it mentally spent how I was going to be in the hood with a Bentley. So,
Okay.
yeah. You know, God is the best of all planners. So
Right.
thankfully, He ain't give me that lump sum of money at that time.
Okay. So, right. Thankfully. So, all right. So I've known you for a while, and I know we get into a lot of conversations about, going to college and the traditional route professionally, right? So what do you think about, because you were fortunate that someone taught you about real estate at like 19, right?
Yeah, for me to get exposed to it.
Yeah.
I didn't do it the right way, but I was exposed to it. I was in the right place, right time, and I was fortunate. So yes.
So if we have, I'm sure we have young people that are going to see this video on YouTube. What would you say to someone who is 19, 20, 21, and they're seeing these workshops and seminars, flyers on real estate? What would you say to them right now?
Okay, so right now we're in what's called the information age, right? So when I got started in real estate, and not only real estate, when I learned about creative real estate in 2010 with the wholesaling strategies and the different strategies with flipping houses with no money and no credit, essentially. When I learned about that stuff, right, it was like 3 or 4 podcasts, like 5 real estate podcasts in one. Like one of them was active, and it was Flip to Freedom. It was based off wholesaling. Shout out to my man Sean Terry out there in Phoenix. And I was in 2010. I would just listen to his stuff, and YouTube had a few real estate educators giving out content, but it was a few. It wasn't a lot,
Right.
So fast forward, now you have it everywhere. Amazon, you can find books on, creative real estate, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. So it's all out there now. So my advice would be, man, just to, just do your research, and you have it all at your fingertips, literally. You can look it out on your phone. Just do your research about if you're interested in getting into real estate. You can do your research on what aspect of real estate do you want to pursue. Do you want to be an agent and do traditional real estate? Do you want to be an investor, fix and flipper? And because the investor side has different sides, you can wholesale, you can fix and flip.
Right.
I build houses on infill lots as well. But, so you have all different type of strategies that you can do. And I just tell them, just to research the whole thing. And as far as, college is great. If you know why you're going, and if you major in something math-based. I noticed the people who major in things math-based, they have a higher chance of getting a good job. Me, I avoided math. I avoided the math, so when I got out of college, my first job was $10 an hour in the call center.
Right.
But I also came out in one of the worst economies since the Great Depression. So, but I still think, yeah.
Came out at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I still think that formal education has its place, but don't be afraid to look at trade schools. And if you're interested in the internet, what I do is with entrepreneurship, just do your research on the internet. Like everything can be, researched on the internet.
Right. I absolutely agree. Everything is so attainable. If you want to learn about wholesaling, you want to learn about flipping your first house, you literally can learn that tonight, right? And you actually have a book.
I have a book on Amazon called Flip Houses Like Burgers. So I have a book titled Flip Houses Like Burgers, yes.
Okay. So we'll make sure there's a link to that so that you guys can find out more information. But yeah, just grabbing a book and checking things out. Now, you're a member of Real Estate Investor Association as well in your area too?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
That's how I pretty much got my start. I learned a lot from mine.
Okay.
Mine, being that I started real estate in a recession, people were more active and more friendly, if that makes sense. So when I say active, meaning they did more and they spoke more. Now that the market is good, people are focused on the business making money. So with that being said, yes, but I am a part of my local RIA.
Okay. And then I think I've heard you talk about this before. So most people are intimidated when you go to an organization. You feel like folks are more advanced than you and you don't even know what to say. So what did that look like for you in your first year? And I've heard you discuss this before, because you were still working, right?
Yeah.
So how did you structure and start to build relationships in that situation?
Okay, so I was working in the call center. Anybody who worked in the call center is watching this, you probably know you just can't take time off even though you got time. to take off.
Right.
So, because they have something called service levels in the call center. So when we got high service levels and certain peaks of the season, etc., you just can't take off, even though you have the time, but you got to use the time before December 31st, so you're going to lose the time, but you can't take off.
Cycle.
During these days. So, because the call center is busy and they have to have the manpower there. But what I used to do to go to my RIA, I used to have to use my PTO.
Okay.
And I remember other people wanting to get, was interested in it. And I told them about the RIA. And I told them how I was able to go. They were like, oh, I'm not using my vacation time for that. So, I used my vacation time to go to the RIA because I felt that those were going to be beneficial. However, when I got in there, not only did I get up and talk to people, I was younger then. I had these long dreads, so people would just talk to me as well. And I volunteered for the organization because I wanted to be around real estate investors as much as possible.
Right.
I needed, as much as possible, I need to be around people. So, and I couldn't afford to get into the Saturday classes. So our main meeting was Thursday, and then from Thursday, the speaker would have a class on Saturday. So I used to serve the speakers coffee and things of that nature, and they used to, let me get in for free, and I would volunteer, clean up, and do everything that I need to do just so I can get that information and be there.
That's a major gem, because I hear that a lot, meeting new investors. They're like, they want to go to certain classes, they want to do certain things, but the money isn't there yet. So
yeah, I volunteered, man.
Yeah, that was great advice.
Yeah, I had to make it happen, man. No way. The situation I was in at that time, I just didn't. I used to be sitting in that car saying, like, man, I did not go to college for this.
Right.
This was not on TV. On TV, you graduate from college, you supposed to go to work with like a suit, briefcase, and kiss your wife in the morning.
Yeah.
And tell her you'll be back later. Then you come back later, your kids run, hug your legs. So I ain't had none of that. So
it sounds like you were very mentally strong. Like, despite your situation, even though you were in the call center, you weren't there mentally. You were thinking about something else.
Yeah.
So what kinds of mindset work did you do during this season as you transitioned to full-time investing?
So I had to get into self-development at that time. I didn't know nothing about self-development. I read my first book at 26. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And from that book, it had book recommendations in the back. So which was like a lot of self-help books, like Think and Grow Rich, etc. And I just started reading that, and I got into audio books. At that time, audio books were still on CD. So we had CD players in the car. I don't even know if cars still got CD players.
No, it's kind of hard to find right now. But
we got
apps.
Right, they got apps. Yeah, I know that. But yeah, you get the audio books and the apps, and I had, back then in 2010, 11, 12, 13, you didn't have to have an iPhone necessarily. I had to say we had iPods back then, and with the iPods, they had a little car adapter you can stick into the cigarette light or something.
Right.
And so that's how I used to listen to podcasts. So I was listening to podcasts, but I had to put all that positivity in my mind and the right information in my mind, because at that time, man, like, I couldn't let that be my reality. I just look up at people 5 and 10 years older than me and say, like, yo, nah, not me, man. Not me. It's not going to be me. So I just focused on getting myself out of that situation.
Wow. Yeah, that's deep, because I think a lot of people, they want to get into real estate, but they're also into this routine of just getting up and going to work every day, like you said, and just doing the same thing. And it's amazing how audiobooks or just reading actual books can just open these new doors. You know what I mean? Like, even if someone grabbed your book and they can literally read that book, learn wholesaling, and it's like on to the next thing, right? And then you've given us gems today about meeting people and how that just changed their life. And the next thing you know, you resigned from that call center, right?
I didn't resign. I got fired.
I tried to say it nice.
So I was at that call center. So this is how I went. So I did 3 months at Convergys, and Convergys is a call center, and they had different contracts. I did OnStar, and then I went to Wachovia which was headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina. For those who don't know, at that time, Charlotte was the number 2 biggest banking city behind New York City. I believe they're number 3 now behind San Francisco. But regardless of what, I was in Wachovia for 2 years in the call center and the retail banking center. So I was one of those guys you call if you wanted your balance. You know, thank God for apps. So I don't think people have to call as much. However, when people get overdraft fees and all that, they used to call and curse us out. So, and we had to explain, you know, how that worked. But anyway, I did 2 years there. And from there, I went to TIAA Cref. And from TIAA Cref, I was in the call center for life insurance. And I got, that transferred into a processing position all within 12 months.
Okay.
So all within 12 months, I got a processing position. Then I got laid off after a year. And I went to the BB&T, which is a bank in the southern region. I was a parent company, but they had like a life insurance division. And from there, I just handled processing life insurance applications. And I was supposed to be putting numbers in like the Excel sheets and all that. So of course, you know, I lied to my, you know, resume saying that I knew how to work the whole Microsoft suite. You know, I found the resume on the internet and it sounded good, right? So, so I just put the whole suite joint on there, man. And so they put me and gave me an Excel sheet and start punching in numbers and calculating formulas. So, you know, brother was stuck. You know, they tried to work with me. But, you know, bless their heart. And, you know, after like 6 months, man, they finally cut the puppet strings. And, you know, I knew I was going to find a write-up. So I was not surprised when I got fired.
Right.
You know, like I knew, like every Friday morning, Friday afternoon, they would call me into the principal office for like my progress report. And that's literally how I felt, like I was in middle school or grade school and I had to walk to the principal office. So every Friday could have been my last Friday. So so imagine going through that for like 3 months, and it was nerve-wracking. But I did get 2 job offers before that.
Okay.
But I said to myself, I said, yo, do I really want to go back into another job and I'm going to be miserable again in 3 months?
Right.
Or do I want to better myself? So I was talking to a friend of mine, shout out to Wendia in New Jersey, and she said, Nasar, you're only going to be 29 once. You can always go back and get another job. So I was like, yeah, you're right. So I just let them fire me. I had told them, like, hey, you know, my grandfather passed. I need to go to Lumberton, North Carolina, which is like 2.5 hours away from Charlotte. And I guess they felt like, man, you know, he died, you stay out there with him. Because they called me back in the office after they approved it, and they cut the puppet strings finally. So
okay, thank God they did, right?
Yeah, no, it was a blessing. I wasn't mad on it. You know what I mean? I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
You know, I was just finally happy they cut the puppet strings. You know what I'm saying? So.
Right. Hi, this is Deanna Britt from Law Clerk on Demand. Thank you so much for checking out my video today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below a video topic that you might be interested in. Also, if you are involved in real estate, don't forget to visit our website, lawclerkondemand.com, and grab a specialty real estate lead list and find your next deal.